Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to the Office of the Commissioner of Police for another press briefing. My name is Dennis Brooks, and it is our pleasure to welcome you as part of our continuous engagement of the public here at the Jamaica Constabulary Force. We know that there is a need for information to be shared in a timely manner, and there are some issues that I would imagine have captured the nation's attention, some things that we would like to bring to your attention as your police. And as such, it's at the start of a new month, we engage you in this way. Today, once again, you'll be briefed by the Police Commissioner, Major General Anthony Anderson. Now, supporting him, we have Deputy Commissioner of Police, Fitz Bailey, the head of the Crime and Security Portfolio to his right. To his right, we have ACP MacArthur Sutherland, the head of IPROBE. To the commissioner's left, we have DCP Clifford Blake, the head of the Operations Branch. So at the end of the commissioner's presentation, as always, we will open the floor for the reporters on our platform to ask the questions that arise out of the presentation and any other matters that may be of national concern as well. Again, we are seeking to have this in a timely manner, so we are going to ask you to ask one question at a time. At this time, I hand you over to the Police Commissioner, Major General Anthony Anderson.
Currently in the midst of an aggressive program of modernization and transformation. We're building a more capable force, we're improving the working environment, integrating technology, building capacity, and improving our public engagement at an unprecedented rate. And we have the team to take us forward. Much of what we have been doing has formed part of our engagement strategy with our various stakeholders, and has been said here during previous briefings as well, but there's always something new happening. And so we provide various avenues for this information to be accessed. Recently submitted to Parliament was the 2022 Commissioner's Report that follows the 2018 to 2020 report, both of which captures the many activities, initiatives, and projects that we are pursuing, which can be found on the JCF website. I encourage both my own members and members of the public to read both documents, as they will give you much insight on our transformation journey. A part of this transformation journey has been our law enforcement activities as a direct response to violence and other crime trends we are seeing, some of which will be highlighted later in the presentation. One of the things we have been refining and improving over the last years has been our intelligence capability, through the deliberate development of all source gathering processes and enhanced analysis. We have seen the results of this, particularly with respect to gun seizures and the capture of wanted persons. As our intelligence capability improves, we expect that we will continue to interrupt and intercept persons involved in various crimes. We have seen in several of our recent seizures where criminals are not only brazen in their use of some of our major roadways, but are also very willing to confront the police with high-powered weapons. I will say again, as I've said many times before, when there is an armed confrontation with gunmen and the police, my police must win every single time. We are also building a more agile and responsive police force. Crime and criminals are constantly evolving. This is why we have enhanced the recruitment process, which has significantly increased the number of new members we are able to bring into the JCF. In order to counter criminal activity, we require highly trained, highly mobile, and tactical police to operate in many of our urban spaces. We are producing more and more of that type of officer. We recognize that we have specific challenges in Western Jamaica, and we are taking steps to address them. We have boosted our quick response team in St. James, and plans are well advanced to establish quick response teams in the other parishes out west. There are 60 members currently under training ahead of being deployed to Area 1, and this is advanced tactical training. And this will significantly boost our capacity and ability to respond to the challenges we are having in the Western Division. Last financial year, we recruited 1,260 officers, and this year we are on course to recruit a similar number. We are increasing not only the number, but the quality of these officers. Now, the proliferation of weapons and the propensity for gunmen to attack each other makes it unlikely to intercept every gunman on the way to commit a crime, or as they are about to pull the trigger. But one thing we can do is catch them and arrest them when they are in possession of the primary tools of crime, which is the gun. Since the start of 2022, we have arrested and charged 401 persons for the illegal possession of firearms or ammunition or both. We were recently engaged in a gun battle on the highway with Manton Brown, who was St. Anne's most wanted. He was a known gun for hire and was wanted for several murders. There was a recent fatal shooting of Dane Christopher, who was also intercepted on the highway. Previously, he was arrested and charged in connection with the murder of a 14-year-old and was reporting on bail. In the case of the quadruple murder in Taws Pen, Spanish Town, this is a continuation of a gang conflict, and two of the main suspects have been identified. They have been put out as persons of interest, and they were previously charged with murder. One had absconded and the other was reporting on bail. In the case of the Kingston East triple murder, we have identified a person of interest. He's a man who was previously charged and is currently on bail. We also arrested recently Linville Shabdan Thompson in relation to the ongoing bloody gang conflict in St. James. In relation to the ongoing gang conflict at 31 St. John's Road in Spanish Town, St. Catherine, the St. Catherine North Police have named Neville Butler of Old Harbour Road and Damian Davis of St. John's Road as persons who of interest, and we believe these men can assist us with our investigations in the violence taking place there, and they are being asked to visit the Spanish Town Police Station. We have interrupted a number of attempts to carry out murders. We have also intercepted a number of gunmen with guns whilst they're in the process of carrying out their criminal activity. When they elude us, our intelligence and investigations allow us to rapidly identify and pursue them. Our anti-gang strategy is at the core of our response to murders, as 76% of murders are gang-related. Scamming continues to be a significant driver of violence in the country. Even as we strengthen our response locally, we continue to collaborate with our international partners on this and other transnational crimes, including money laundering and drug trafficking. In recent weeks, we have seen a number of extradition requests for scammers and persons associated with the illicit drug trade, money laundering, and sex crimes. 6 persons have been arrested in relation to recent requests from the United States, and 2 persons have been returned from the United States on our request. One of the critical areas of transformation within the force is in relation to our engagement of community stakeholders. Our model of policing is an integrated one, and we continue to engage in a wide array of initiatives geared at opening channels of communication and building trust. These trust-building initiatives have been important to the improved intelligence and investigative capacity that we have spoken of. Our aggressive digital media strategy continues to reap rewards in the improved trust that people place in us. Share information with Crime Stop as well as sharing with police in the local division. So far this year, calls to Crime Stop have increased by 98% over last year. Our engagement on Facebook increased by 156%. We have 30,000 new active followers on Instagram and 25,000 on Twitter. Additionally, 34 of the persons named earlier this year as wanted persons have been captured. The whole narrative of communities not trusting their police is increasingly becoming a thing of the past. As at May 31st, the JCF have seized 320 illegal firearms compared with 314 recorded last year, representing a 2% increase in firearm seizures. Since then, and this is the first 7 days of June, we have seized 27 firearms during police operations compared with 9 during the similar period last year. In addition, we have seized 6,380 rounds of ammunition when compared to 4,483 in the similar period in 2021. This represents a 42% increase in ammunition seizure. In relation to the crime figures, as at May 31st, murders are up by 6.3%, with gang conflicts accounting for 76% of murders, interpersonal conflicts accounting for 14%, while 6% occurred in furtherance of criminal acts. Mob killings accounted for a further 1%, and 3% are still being determined. Additionally, shootings are down by 9.1%, rapes down by 15.7%. We have an increase in robberies by 1%, and break-ins are up by 6.1%. Overall, major crimes are down by 0.8%, which puts us more or less level with where we were last year. So major crime figures currently continue to be tracking at that level. Since the start of the year, there has been an increase in violent conflicts resulting in murders, particularly in the western end of the island. For the most part, the violence we are seeing in the West is isolated to specific groups of gangsters who have access to expensive, high-powered weapons, engage in killings, reprisals, and counter-reprisals. On the other hand, in places like St. Mary, murder is up. But when we examine the attribution, we are seeing a significant number of interpersonal conflicts, representing over 50% of all murders. And some of those conflicts involve a quarrel over a parking space that ended up in a murder. That's one example. Now, this 6% increase in 2022, which is a difference of 35 when compared with last year, over the last week or so, and we expect going into June, we're going to be seeing a gradual downward trend. And if this continues, we should finish this quarter, which is at the end of June, somewhat lower than we are now with respect to last year. One of the factors that is driving murders in Jamaica today stems from young men with access to guns, collecting money from people to commit killings. This is something that we're seeing more and more of. While this is not new, we now have more young men with access to ill-gotten gains from scamming activities. They now have high-powered weapons and ammunition, are more than willing to kill people. Members of the public who have been in conflict have been immediately approached by some of these people, offering their services. In some communities, as quickly as you and your family members have an argument about deadlift, you can expect someone to approach you and offer to deal with a thing for you, sometimes for as little as $15,000. Let me make it clear that if you believe that this is the way you wish to settle your grievances, we will ensure that the full force of law enforcement will be brought to bear on you, whether you are the triggerman or the person who procured their services. Once again, I'd asked this before, I'm asking you to make a choice. And that choice is to give up the guns, gunmen, and gangs and join us on a journey towards peace and safety. More and more, we have seen our people come on board with us, abandoning the inform of a dead culture in favor of preserving lives and building safer communities. Let us get every illegal gun, turn in every gunman, and dismantle every gang. I'm going to use this opportunity to commend the men and women of this force who have responded to the increase that we've seen in homicides, particularly, but in the movement and our responses to guns, gunmen, and gangs, and have gone beyond the call of duty to do this. Very recently, it was quite public where some guns moving along the highway were intercepted by a team led by DCP Bailey. A number of those officers responded from all over and were willing to leave their homes, leave what they were doing to go and do this work. It's not unique to this occasion. Our officers have been pushing, they have been surging, and they've been out there. And they are seeing the results of it, and we are seeing the results of it. So even though we've had a blip, it will come down. We will get it down over the next month. As I said, by the end of the quarter, we will see the trend that we've seen started to continue to go down. We understand that it can be disturbing and frightening to see where you see in the media or on social media where 4 people were shot, 3 people were shot. And we've seen the willingness of some of our gunmen to just kill not only the person they're after, but persons around them. That's why it's more than important that if you're seeing people who are strange in your communities, who you're not used to seeing, let us know. It's important that if one of your relatives is involved in these practices, that you give us the information so we can bring these persons into custody. That you do not put yourselves, your families, your children at risk because they happen to be the family of somebody involved in scamming, somebody involved in the gun trade, somebody carrying out killings of people. I want to assure the country that by no means is the JCF on its back foot. We are leaning forward into this. I have confidence that in doing so, we will continue this fight one day at a time with the resources we have and in the context in which we fight crime. So if you see something, say something. You can call Crime Stop at 311, our tip line at 811, or police emergency at 119. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Commissioner, and you've given us some food for thought. At this time, we're going to open the platform to our colleagues in the media, our colleague journalists. The first hand that goes up is immediately from Albert Ferguson of The Gleaner, I believe, The Gleaner out west. Mr. Ferguson. Albert, unmute.
Tactical persons to be deployed to Era 1.
Albert, I'm going to ask you to just begin your question again. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'd like some clarity on the timeline for the deployment of the 60 tactical police officers for Era 1.
Thank you, Albert.
Thank you for that. So that should be in the next couple of weeks. As I say, they're going through a training process now. We had done this previously for Area 3, and now we're doing it for Area 1. So as soon as they finish that training process, which will be in the next couple of weeks, we should have them out there.
Thank you. Roxroy McLean of The Star.
Thank you, Dennis. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mr. Anderson and my colleague. Mr. Anderson, you touch on the point that the JCF is improving its intelligence gathering and it's resulting in the increasing amount of gun seizure and apprehension of criminals. My question to you, my first question to you is that, are you satisfied with the use of plea bargaining sentencing thus far as it relates to sentence reduction and getting information on the major criminal players?
This is something that we have spoken about, and certainly I've spoken about, and also raised with policymakers. I think it is important that in the plea bargaining regime that you get reduced sentences for actual results from information that you have provided to either recover weapons, dismantle criminal organizations, or some other such benefit beyond just a guilty plea to clear the court. So I think that would be very helpful if the plea bargaining arrangements included or were predicated on the assistance of the person who is before the court and charged, their assistance to law enforcement and to solve, being part of the solution and to offset their previous activities that resulted in them being charged. So I think that is a very important. I thank you for raising it.
Thank you very much, Roxroy. Kimone Francis, also of The Gleaner. Over to you.
Thank you, Dennis. Good afternoon, Commissioner and team. Good afternoon, media colleagues. Commissioner, you mentioned improvement in intelligence gathering, which has led to a number of gun finds. But I wonder if the surge in gun finds is also linked to Army or other international intelligence partners' surveillance through wiretapping.
Largely not. We do work with our overseas partners who, if they pick up movements of guns coming here, sometimes they'll intercept it over there, and we've seen a case of that. I think one recently went to court in the US. But large, and obviously if they miss it, then they will send information to us. A lot of the recoveries we've had, though, especially in recent weeks, has been related to police operations and our own homegrown intelligence within the various agencies that exist in Jamaica that gather on such matters. And our responses are really to that enhanced intelligence, which is really an all-source intelligence gathering and analysis apparatus. When I say all source, I mean both human and technological intelligence gathering.
All right, thank you very much. I'm going to read one from IRI FM. Maisha Brody is asking, the police and stakeholders in the education ministry met today regarding an altercation between a teacher and student at the Tivoli Gardens High School. What was the outcome of that meeting? And with an upsurge in violence in schools, will the police be working with the schools to ensure safety?
Okay, thanks for that. We have 220 school resource officers at the moment who work with various schools who are having challenges. Since we have gone back to face-to-face, we have seen that increase in violence in schools. And as a response to that, we have trained additional school resource officers. I think I'd mentioned at some point that I went to a graduation of 55 additional ones just in St. James, but we have about 220 across the country. And they engage with the school leadership, and but also engage with the students and provide mentorship to them. But obviously they're law enforcement and they're at the school, and so when required they carry out enforcement activities within the context of what we can do with persons who are really underage or young offenders. The actual case, my understanding, I think, is that the person has been arrested and charged, and they are to appear in the family court sometime later this month. So that's where that specific one is. But again, the nature of our social media and the images that come out there of these things are very disturbing to us, and also to obviously to you and the public. And so as far as we will get involved. We'll continue with our school resource officer program, but also we have been aggressively pursuing building out our police youth clubs so that we can mentor a number of young people in a very close, well, in a closer way, and so that they don't also become part of the violence that we're seeing. Some of it, of course, is as a result of these children being the younger siblings or children of persons who are involved in gang activity, and it bleeds over into the school. We're aware of this. I just say our intel picks up when we see this, and we have the officers to respond to it.
Thank you. Jason Cross of the Jamaica Observer, your question.
Thank you, Dennis. Good afternoon, everyone, Commissioner and the team. I just want to find out how serious is the situation involving Shabdan, the producer, and is it likely that he'll be charged at any point?
Okay.
Okay, in terms of that matter, the investigation is actively being pursued. I think there is adequate evidence based on the investigation, and that was a reason for him being brought into custody. I know that he will be interviewed, and I can't comment any further on that, but the evidence that we have has implicated him, and the process of interview will be done, and then whatever action will be taken thereafter.
All right, thank you. All right, so I'm going to now go back to Roxroy McLean of The Star. You have another question?
Thank you, Dennis. My second question is to Mr. Bailey for him to answer. Can we get an update on the investigation into the bones recovered in St. Thomas? As it relates, have the bones been tested? Also, if not, when will the bones be tested?
That investigation is ongoing. As you will appreciate, that DNA is very important to determine who those persons are. I think we are going to face with a challenge because there's no DNA available to compare the remains with. But the investigation is ongoing. I don't think I can go any further in terms of, making any statement, but it is ongoing.
Thank you, Roxroy. Back to Kimon Francis of The Gleaner. Kimon, is your hand genuinely still up, or is it that it's just left up? All right, Albert Ferguson, your hand is up again. No? Roxroy McLean?
Yes. Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
No, man, that was my final question.
Thank you very much. Albert, your hand is back up.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. All right, Commissioner, in a recent Sunday Gleaner probe on squatter settlement, we find that some of our police officers live in these spaces. Do you believe that these officers are compromised?
You mean with respect to living there?
Yes, and given what goes on in these spaces.
So it is not desirable for our officers to be living in squatter settlements. Now, some of the original squatter settlements, especially down in the West, have significantly developed in terms of infrastructure, laid out roads, services, and the housing stock has increased significantly in some of what were traditional squatter settlements that have been subsequently regularized, I'll use that term, and have received significant investment. And as you say, if you go into the West, some of these settlements aren't what you would visualize when you think of what a squatter settlement is, particularly in the western part of the country. Again, in some of these spaces, persons have now, they've issued the titles for these properties and so on. So it would depend on what we're talking about, but I would say largely it's not desirable that our officers find themselves in squatter settlements. And we'd have to look at the specifics of the cases. And of course, we don't expect, and this is one of the issues that has come up about how much police officers are paid, and any police officer should be paid sufficiently that they do not have to find themselves living in a squatter settlement. That's, that would put them below what you could expect any police officer anywhere to be paid.
Kimon Francis, your hand is back up. I'm going to give you your final question.
Thanks, Dennis. Commissioner, from where you sit, or DCP Bailey, is there a deepening of relations between Jamaica and criminals in Colombia in terms of transnational crimes and specifically drug shipment? And what is the police seeing in terms of transnational activities with the Jamaica-Mexico human smuggling?
Well, based on what we are picking up, I have not seen an increase in that type of relationship. I am aware that Jamaicans are actually going to other countries and committing transnational organized crime. For example, when we look at the weapon trafficking, we know Jamaican goes to Haiti, they go to Nicaragua in their weapon trafficking effort. But I've not seen any increase between Colombia and Jamaica. We are aware that there is instances where Jamaicans, in an attempt to reach the United States, they travel to Mexico. We are aware of that trade in terms, as you mentioned, it's human smuggling. I'm not certain that's if it constitutes that, but we are aware of that.
Yes. Just add to that. So we have seen the movement of criminals who we are after and who have been named or identified out of the country, and they use the Central American route to get out of here. We have seen that, and also persons who are abroad making arrangements, not just by small boat, but arrangements to get shipments in from the U.S. And in this regard, we are working obviously with our overseas partners in identifying where they are and also what sort of offenses they are doing over there so that we can have a joint investigation on this. Obviously, once we have a major producer of drugs to our south, immediate south, we share a border with Colombia. It's not going to be surprising if there are forays upward to Jamaica, to obviously not so much to fill a local market for cocaine, but for onward transshipment to other countries. And we have been interrupting some of those in Jamaica, and obviously some when they arrive in the U.S. having been onward transmitted through Jamaica and gone onward. So it is something, though, that we look at all the time. It's not something that we take for granted. We have seen in the past, so many years ago, where that arrangement between Colombia criminals and those in Jamaica was very strong. It led to many years of significant amount of cocaine trafficking through Jamaica. That was interrupted, but we must never, we can never rest on our laurels. We know that the means of getting money is key to organized crime. One of those is going to be the drug trafficking. One of those is going to be the gun trafficking. One of those is going to be scamming and the proceeds, illicit proceeds of crime. And that is what has impacted the availability of weapons and the high numbers of rounds that are available. As you say, if we can arrest and charge over 400 persons to this point this year for illegal possession of firearms or ammunition or both, it means that there's a lot out there, and that's why it's important that those people who are arrested for possession are taken out of play by being in prison for these actions. The people with the guns are the people doing the killing.
All right, our final question goes to Irie FM, who asks, is there any update on the killing of 7-year-old Aiden Rose in Bickersteth, St. James last week? His mother was charged with child neglect. Has any other charge been laid against her or anyone else? And yes, I did edit that comment because there was a word used in it that I don't know to be the case.
Okay, in terms of that investigation, we are awaiting the postmortem as well as the result from the lab in terms of DNA. That's where we are at with that investigation as we speak.
And at present, it's a homicide.
We are investigating that.
Right. All right, thank you very much to all the persons who've been on the platform today asking various questions. We do trust that the information shared with you today will be beneficial, not just to your newscast and your publications, but generally speaking as a matter of public education. We do invite you to continue to engage us, the constabulary, your constabulary, as we seek to be a force for good. On behalf of all of us here at the Office of the Police Commissioner, I say, have a wonderful day.